Wednesday, July 3rd, 2013, 8:25 a.m. I'm in my apartment reading emails, and suddenly I feel my breath high, caught in my chest, missing heartbeats. My son phones. Mom, turn on the TV. Breaking news. A summer campground for children in Yosemite. Several injured, one dead. Aerial view. A great branch down. Shards, wood, benches, tables, crushed beneath. My child is there. Parents are calling, but they can't get through, so they're posting on Facebook, call me, Anais, darling, please, please call me. But the lines are always busy. Who are they calling? I'm her mother, they would have called me. 4.5 hours later, I get through. I learn it's her. It's her. She's the one. I don't know how many times I screamed. I knew, beyond any knowing, that it was true. My child, my girl, my daughter, my gorgeous, gorgeous Anais would never, ever, ever again come in through my front door into my arms. Later, the injured girls told me she had saved their lives. My 21-year-old daughter's last words were, "Whoa, the tree's falling, run." And in an instant, my life was utterly demolished. I had no skills for living this unbelievable. When a child dies, it's often, not always, but often, it's sudden, it's violent, and the parents aren't there. When a child dies, it's always nature backwards. And the grief is agonizing. It debilitates. It needs long-term care. It's like having open heart surgery without anesthesia, and then you're supposed to get up, put on a mask, wear a facade, and move on, business as usual. My life will never be the same. And I have a constant companion now, grief, that shows up when I least expect. There are mothers I now know who stayed in bed for 2-3 years. Others soldiered on at a cost. And one mother I knew killed herself. It's broken sleep, broken memory, broken identity, jagged crying for days, nights, weeks, months, years. PTSD, triggers everywhere, lost words. I find myself up at night, late, typing, her music on, Hallelujah, sitting on the dock of the bay, James Brown, Revenge, thinking, typing. Words torn out of me to hold the pain, the grief, the rage, and the emptiness. I was already so broken, I did not expect what happened next. And it broke my heart. A few close friends and relatives who I assumed would be with me through this agony weren't. They were afraid. There was fear. I was avoided. I was dropped. According to them, I was negative, heavy, too angry. I needed to move on. It seems that my ongoing grief without expiration date was too much and too long for them. But fortunately, there were good friends who stayed and new ones emerged. I bless them. And then a ray of light. 10 months after Anais was killed, I heard about Project Grace. 2 mothers who had not lost children were taking 6 bereaved mothers to Tanzania to work in an orphanage. Being from South Africa, I knew that in Africa, life and death are intimately connected in a dynamic cycle. I signed up immediately. Every evening, one of the mothers would tell the life story of her child, talking so freely about our dead children. We began to heal as a community. We had compassion for each other and compassion for ourselves. And then there were the children. We'd each been given a pin with a photograph of our child. This is mine. The children called me Mama Anais, and they'd gather in close, so close, no distance, and they'd look at the photo of Anais, and they'd look up at me, and they'd ask, "What happened?" I tell them. At 8:25 a.m., a huge branch from a very tall 85-foot black oak tree crashed down on the wooden benches and tables where some girls were eating their breakfast. Several girls were injured, but Anais was killed. And they look at her photograph again, and they look up at me and they say, "Why did that happen?" And I tell them, people have to take special care of places where children play and sing and meet and eat. They have to always check the trees that give us shade and protect us to make sure that they are always strong and safe. And then those children looked again at Anais. They looked up at me, and they looked at her again, and they looked at me and they said, "Sorry, sorry." And I felt something shift in me. I felt normal. These children from the orphanage in Tanzania had the gift of love, courage, simplicity, compassion, and kindness. I was seen, they asked, they listened, they heard, and they were sorry. And they also had instinctively the gift of knowing to make a relationship with Anais and with me. And out of that, they asked their questions. They were present and they were not afraid. I know that everybody will have their own journey of grief if you're unfortunate enough for this to happen. This was mine, and Tanzania saved my life. When I came back, I had new energy, which I channeled into my writing, and I gave birth to a play. Its title, If a Tree Falls. I was able, through theater and art, to have a voice, to break the silence and talk about this terrible tragedy, honor my daughter's enthusiasm for life and her passion and love of nature. And also I could talk openly about this taboo, the unspeakable, losing a child. And this gave me a sense of strength inside all the chaos. So today I stand for the other mothers whom I now know, and also for families who've lost children, and remember its families, its siblings, its grandparents. And I'm grateful to be able to share with you what it is like to lose a child, and also some of the things to say and not to say. There's a tendency when this grief goes on, it goes on forever, to start to isolate and to feel invisible, and that's bad. So it's incredibly important to keep reaching out. A friend of mine told me that she heard her 16-year-old son speaking on the phone to an aunt in heavy grief. And he said, "I don't know what to say." Now that's fine, that's authentic. I love you, and I'm always here for you. And what I learned from the children and the experience in Tanzania, that it is so important to create a relationship that acknowledges what happened. I may look all right to you, but inside, my reality is so different. I have a dead child now. So when that reality is acknowledged, then we played, we sang, we had fun, we had a wonderful time. It wasn't all doom and gloom. Now, I know that people mean well and they want to help, but too often what they say has a visceral negative shutdown for me. Here are some examples. "I'm sorry for your loss." How are you? "It's good you have another child. You seem to me to be so much better now. May her memory be a blessing. Things change, life will change, time heals all. Let go, move on." I know it's difficult, but if you don't know what to say, ask the parents. And if you make a mistake, you can say, "I'm sorry. I want to be asked about Anais. I want her name spoken. And I also want to break down the taboo, the fear that holds us apart. Death is not a contagious disease. It happens across all demographics. Anais died. The grieving goes on. It's been nearly 4 years. And I have goodish days and bad days, and I expect it'll go on like this forever. When you go home today, think about the people who are meaningful to you and phone them, reach out, show them you care, stay in contact, tell them that you love them. Because remember, tomorrow is never promised. Thank you.